I have never done a book review, but when I read this book, I decided that I really needed to recommend this book and tell you why.
I'll make my own decisions. What a stupid thing to say. Lord, I need you every day.
So I'm a bit partial to the writer because I've been following him for, I don't even know how long, over a year, possibly two, not sure. And he actually was one of my instructors at CIA when I did the certification this spring. He was really tough on my presentation for a reason, a very good reason. His job is to make sure that we know why we believe what we believe, and that we actually have solid evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. So, what is this book and who's this writer I'm talking about? His name is Detective J. Warner Wallace, and this is the book we'll be talking about today. I personally think that all apologists, not just that, all Christians should actually read this book. Great layout, great setup, phenomenal information. Something we all really need to get a grasp on. Now, let's talk about why I absolutely loved this book and had to do a review, and I've never done reviews before. Let's break it down. In the preface, Jim makes a fantastic analogy. He talks about going from belief that to belief in. Let me explain a little. He was talking about one of his fellow officers that knew that his bulletproof vest would keep him safe. But until one incident, he didn't realize that he could put his faith in the bulletproof vest because it literally saved his life one day. So he went from belief that the bulletproof vest could save his life to belief in the bulletproof vest saving his life. I have heard people say that they believe that Jesus died for them, but I don't see any proof that they've put their faith in Jesus and the work that he did on the cross. One thing I have got to point out about this book is I absolutely love all the graphics that are in it. In fact, I heard an interview, him talking about there were not all that many graphics in the last rendition. This is the 10th anniversary updated version, by the way. Apparently, he added 300 extra graphics that the original editor or publisher wouldn't let him, I don't know which one it was, wouldn't let him add into the book. And I think it was awesome. You see, I'm probably partial to the graphic thing because I myself am a graphic artist. I'm sure you've seen some of my stuff. I mean, look at my profile as well. There were so many great graphics. I had to remark on that. And being the word nerd that you all know that I am, I thoroughly enjoyed the little graphics like this that were with the word definitions. I have a lot of them highlighted. Section 1 walks us through learning to think like a detective when it comes to the beliefs in Christianity. Jim was an atheist at one time, so he starts from skeptical and reminds us not to be a know-it-all. He teaches us how to do abductive reasoning, think circumstantially, test the eyewitnesses or gospel writers, not miss a word from witnesses, separate artifacts from evidence, understand there was a chain of custody that we can pinpoint, and prepare for attacks. Section 2 is the juicy part to me. It is completely full of my highlights, absolutely loaded with it. I thought it was really clever to inch back the timeline to see if the eyewitnesses were even really eyewitnesses. We actually have so many outside sources testifying to the eyewitness accounts. And Jim walks through a bunch of them. And he also points out archaeological evidence and some historical evidence. And he also cites real historical evidence for real places and real historical people. My favorite line is this: if you think about it, faith is actually the opposite of unbelief, not reason. One of my favorite parts of the book was at the end of each chapter, there was a section called A Tool for the Call-Out Bag, a Tip for the Checklist. It was a takeaway tip for each chapter. I would say that my favorite and most highlighted, almost completely highlighted chapter was chapter 13. And when you read it, you'll know that it's because it's the chain of evidence chapter. It actually walks through the chain of evidence that we do have passed down from disciples to their disciples, to their disciples, to their disciples. I obviously really like this part because my degree is in biblical studies and I'm totally into textual criticism and the chain of evidence and how we know that the New Testament is even valid. One note, if you're reading this on Kindle, do not miss all of the great extras at the end. The book ends at the end of the chapters, but there's about an hour worth of reading after that, and some of my favorite parts were in this section. I absolutely love how the appendix is set up. The expert witness section is my favorite. There's a lot of resources, and Jim cites why you want to even use this resource that he's suggesting. Phenomenal idea. Some were already on my read list and some are now on my read list. The assisting officers chapter was a great add too. I highly recommend this book. It's actually not that expensive on Amazon either. I teach apologetics at my church and will be doing this next year. It's in my lineup now. And as always, thank you so much for being here today. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button right there and click the bell for notifications and hit that like button too as well. And I will see you next time. Maranatha.
We were made to show the love of Christ. We know this is why we're here. This is why He gave us life. So let His love shine through in everything we do. It's all for love. He commanded above all things to love the Lord with all our mind, heart, soul, and strength for all of time. Give your heart to the one who was there at the start. We were made to love, we were made to give. The reason why we're here, the reason why He gave us life. We were made to show the love of Christ. We know this is why we're here. This is why He gave us life. So let His love shine through in everything we do. It's all for love. Greater love has no one but this, that He lay His life down for a friend. Build each other up, don't cease, it's never enough. And now that He's washed me clean, I wanna follow where